and that's always bothered me right from the very beginning of him being elevated to the Test side, is that he has very little record of scoring runs in the longer form of the game. He bats in the middle order, playing for Middlesex, predominantly have been in the second division during his career, on pitches at Lords which are flat as a pancake, and bowlers are always complaining about them, and yet he averages in the low 30s in first-class cricket. So he doesn't actually have a record to fall back on of compiling big innings and scoring big runs. And so it's not a surprise, perhaps, that he hasn't gone in and immediately transferred his one-day form into the Test arena. But also, I just think if he's going to play, if he gets picked, then don't go in there and try and bat like a top-order batsman. Go in and play like you do in the one-dayers. Presumably the reason he's in there is because he has an X factor, because he can take the attack to the bowlers. He does strange things and hits the ball in strange areas. So don't go in there and try and play like Andrew Strauss, because you can't. Go in there and play like Owen Morgan.
Yeah, and I guess if he had done that, maybe in that 145 run chase, things might have been different if he'd just gone in and done something with a bit of flair. You got the impression he was trying to do that in the last innings yesterday in Dubai.
Well, it became almost last chance saloon for him, so he had to do something. And when you're in trouble, you revert back to type. And his way is obviously taking the attack, taking some risks against the bowlers, because if you're going to go down your way. And, you know, let's see if he plays in the first Test match in Sri Lanka. I'm sure he'll be in the Test match squad. Whether he gets into the final 11, time will tell. But he's a talent. We've seen that in one-day cricket. Butch sums it up perfectly there. He hasn't had a lot of first-class experience. He's still learning his game. We see him just outside off-stump against a good, quicker bowlers. He's suspect. And now we've seen him against top-class spin on turning pitches. He's suspect again.
That doesn't sound too good, does it, for his long-term survival?
Well, no, but he's got time. If the selectors give him time. You know, getting back to Neil Fairbrother, he wasn't really given a lot of time as a Test match cricketer. He was in and out, and then forgotten about.
OK, let's move on up the order a bit. Let's go to Ian Bell. And this was really the biggest surprise of the lot, wasn't it? That Ian Bell, who averaged over 100 last summer and had a fantastic 2011, just looked like he'd gone back to school and he wasn't really sure what was happening. It's
a nightmare. You know, we keep saying it. If you don't know which way the ball is going, you're not going to be a very good player. And he was having a second guess. He was having to almost play it off the pitch. That there near enough sums up his tour in the last dismissal of the third Test match, when he slaps it to cover, which we'll see in a minute.
Well, as you look at all of these dismissals, he keeps finding silly ways to getting out.
It's because, I mean, there, look, you know, during the summer that would have gone for 4, beautiful shot. But because he's having to play the ball off the pitch, he's reducing the time for him to react and reducing his footwork. And therefore he's guessing, he's feeling for the ball instead of being dominant both in defence and in attack. And it's a huge worry. It's horrible when you go out there and you don't know what you're doing.
And in fact, he should have known that his luck was out when the dismissal before that Umagoan, where he stumped off the keeper's pass. The keeper can't even catch the ball, and he knees it onto the stumps, and he's still out.
Yeah, you know your luck's not in.
Because if he'd had caught the ball, he'd have probably got back.
I mean, if you look at the 3 dismissals, you've had the stumping off the keeper's pads, you've had the ball roll back onto his stumps,
between his legs,
just knocked a bail off, didn't hit his foot or anything, and then he slapped a rank long up straight to cover.
He'll be very dejected tonight, won't he? He'll know he's had a stinker of a tour and that he's now been axed from the one-day squad. I don't think he was bought, was he in the IPL auction? I wouldn't imagine so. But he'll be coming home, and I just wonder how he gets his head unscrambled before Sri Lanka.
I think failure is a great, how should I say it? It makes you very determined anyway. So he'll be back, and I'm sure he'll train very hard, he'll practice like a demon, and then we'll see him score big runs in Sri Lanka. I mean, this is not the end of Ian Bell as a Test match player. He's a class act, and I think we'll look at that in a few years' time as being a blip in an otherwise glittering career. Because
these things do happen in a career, don't they? I mean, it happened to both of you.
We've all been through it. You know, this isn't
More
Ian
often
Bell.
Than not, actually.
Yeah, but this isn't Ian Bell of 2005. This is Ian Bell, who's got a number of Test matches against his name, with a very good Test record against his name, who is now looked upon as a senior batsman. So, yeah, he will be not just disappointed, almost embarrassed, coming back with that average and that performance. But great players, and I'll start to put him in that bracket, will bounce back. If you're an ordinary player, you go away and hide and you're never seen or heard of again. He's better than an ordinary player.
Just lastly on Bell, so he comes back into Heathrow tomorrow or the day after. Welcome back, Ian. And you say he's going to train like a demon. But we go back to this question, what's he going to do to prepare himself to play Ajantha Mendis? Because Merlin, the spin bowling machine, can't give you the wrist.
No, but what you can do, even on surfaces where the ball isn't turning at all, what you can do is work on your footwork. Work on making sure that you get yourself into good positions early to minimise the risk of you being done on the inside or the outside of the bat. You can tweak your setup so that it is specifically there to deal with spin and mystery spin. And if you do that, and you get a bit of confidence under your belt, you stand a very good chance of then suddenly being able to start picking it, start understanding what you're doing, and start looking like a proper player again.
He'll also make sure he's got plenty of DVDs of whether it's Herath or whether it's Mendes, which you can watch front on as well. And he'll just sit in his front room at home, big TV screen, analyse it, watch it, how am I going to play it?
It'll be popular when he's been away for all that time and he gets back home to them and says the missus was just looking at a few
Don't worry,
DVDs.
she'll support him, she'll back him.
Let's talk about Kevin Peterson, because, I mean, he was the other huge disappointment, and he tweeted last night saying that he knew that what he had done just wasn't good enough. And interested to talk to you specifically, Alec, about this, because I think Mark made the point that his movements were just out of sync. Now, you had the same problem of movements being out of sync, albeit against Donald on a tour to South Africa. It's one of those things, again, which just happens.
It does. And you say, I hadn't played cricket for 4 months and I broke my finger. And you say that was a horrible place to be, because you've got a bloke coming down at 90-odd mile an hour, and I'm thinking about where should my feet be, position of my head. Oh, by the way, the ball's just hit me or knocked my stumps out of the ground. Whereas here, I just think Kevin Peterson he's just got a huge technical flaw, which I think we've all been highlighting, certainly during this test match, is that he is late on the ball. We've spoken about the forward press, which Duncan Fletcher has brought into the game, which comes as second nature to the Indians, Pakistanis and Sri Lankan batsmen. But he doesn't really press, and if he does, he's pressed by the time the ball has already been released by the bowler instead of pressing earlier. He then goes again, but by the time he's got in a position, the ball's hit him on the pad. And his bat is still, I reckon, that much behind his front pad. Hits him on the pad, but he's got a straight bat, but he's nowhere near the ball. And his reaction, once the ball has hit his pad, right, I've got to try and get at it, and that's why you then see his bat come across at a crooked angle.
OK, so if that's the problem, and we hear that he is the hardest trainer and the hardest netter in the whole setup, how does what he's doing obviously isn't working? Well,
has it been pointed out to him? And is he saying, I have a problem? Because I said yesterday, if you want to improve, you've got to face up to facts. And if you just keep saying, I haven't got a problem, I know exactly what I'm doing, that's fine. You'll only stay at that level. If you want to be a top player, improve on your own performances, admit that you may have a slight problem, work on it, improve it, discuss, talk about it, and then put it into practice.
But of course, you see, he's been through all of this, hasn't he? Especially with left-arm spinners. We heard that before, when he went off to Bangladesh, he knew he had a problem, so he enrolled on I'm a Failed Batsman Anonymous and said he had a problem, and he worked it all out, and apparently that was over the problem, over the, you know, the hiccup was overcome. But you're saying it's still there, or it's a new problem.
Well, I think it's there. I think Mark will agree with me, but we don't know. We're not in that dressing room. You know, we're not.
So how does that work? I mean, I've sat in lots of studios with lots of people, and they've analysed and analysed and analysed. But I just wonder, does that message ever? Do the coaching staff and the batsmen say, well, we're not listening to that lot there, they don't know what they're talking about, and we're just going to do our thing?
We don't know. We're not there on the ground with them.
What was it like in your day?
We'd have the volume down.
Yeah,
so you wouldn't listen?
Definitely.
Yeah, but people would tell you, because even if you didn't read the papers or listen to what was being said, a mate would ring you up and say, you won't believe what Charles Colville has just said about you or whoever, and then they tell you.
I hope they say Alex Stewart or Mark Butcher rather than my views.
But no, that is you've got to front up if you've got an issue. And as I say, I'm not going to start telling Kevin Peterson from here how to play. From within that dressing room, and they've got some excellent batting coaches, whether it's a Graham Gooch, Andy Flower, whoever. Kevin Peterson knows his game, but he's got to front up to it. Have I got a problem? If he says he hasn't, we'll stop the conversation now. If he thinks he has, then he'll go and work at it, because his work ethic, having seen him at Surrey, is outstanding.
Well, watching those three fail again and again and again was, of course, Ravi Bopara sitting in the dressing room. And this morning he told NASA how frustrated he'd found it not getting a chance to see if he could do any better.
I thought I had a chance to play, having lost 2 test matches. You know, if we hadn't lost both of the games, then I knew that I wouldn't stand a chance in coming in. But having lost both games, I thought, you know, I've probably got a very good chance of playing here. Obviously, I was very, looking forward and excited about the challenge, but it wasn't to be. I think Owen Morgan, you know, he is a fine player. He's proven himself at one-day cricket, and he's desperate to prove himself at Test level. And I know he didn't have the best tour, and I don't think at the end of the day nobody had a good tour. It weren't just Owen, and it was the whole team, you know. And we're all part of that. All 15 of us. But the chance of playing, I thought I did have a chance of playing. Yeah.
Do you think you're a better Test match player than Owen Morgan?
I wouldn't want to answer that. I think he's a very good player, and I think he deserves his chance. And if he does get another opportunity, I hope it goes really well for him, because he's a good mate of mine.
Getting back to you and your career, you've been around a while now. You've been in and out the side, you've carried the drinks a bit, but you've played a little bit as well. Do you think you're getting to that stage of your career where you've got to deliver? You've had your chance, you've got to deliver.
Yeah, I think I am. I think I'm at that stage where if I do get my opportunity, it's now the time to perform consistently. I have performed at this level, but I haven't done it on a consistent basis where, you know, you're doing it day in, day out, you know, like your top batters in the world. And I think that's what I've got to get. But there's a lot of things that happened for me this summer, just playing for Essex and playing for England in the one-dayers, and even those last 2 Test matches in England against India. That did a lot for me, and a lot for my confidence, a lot for, yeah, just the belief in myself now. I have a much higher belief in myself than I ever have, and I think now's the time. I think I'm ready now.
So there is Ravi Bopara talking to Nessa earlier on today, and looking ahead to England's next Test series, which of course is in Sri Lanka in March and April. Here is the question: should Bopara, or anyone else come to that, get a go? And if so, in place of who? Morgan does seem to be the most vulnerable, so what do the experts think? Should the selectors stick or twist with Owen?
Well, he's the vulnerable one. If you look at this batting lineup, and the batters haven't performed, the main top 5 have got great averages and got great records. He hasn't. He's hovering round about the average of 30 as a batsman, so he's the one that needs to perform if he gets another go. There's always a reaction that one of the players or 2 of the players have to go. You hear all sorts of names. You've got to leave Kevin Peterson out. That's not going to happen. And all the others are pretty consistent. It's, I think, a perfect storm when the majority of the batsmen have come together chronically out of nick, but Owen Morgan is the vulnerable one.
Well, Morgan's under serious threat for his place, the way he's played out here. I would keep him in the squad. He's under pressure from the likes of Ravi Bopara, who carried the drinks for the last 3 Test matches, and someone like Jos Buttler, who's had a magnificent tour of Sri Lanka. I don't know how good a player in Test match cricket or first-class cricket Jos Buttler is, so we might have to wait for that change. I don't believe in changing unless you're changing for the better. I don't like knee-jerk reactions. Why England have become so successful is because they've given everyone a chance. You go to Broad, when Broad was struggling, they showed faith in him and he's delivered. You look at Cook before the Ashes, they showed faith in him and he delivered. So I would personally stick with Morgan. Otherwise, Morgan won't be in Sri Lanka. Everyone will be saying, oh, maybe we should have stuck with Morgan, given him another go if they're collapsing. He played okay in that last innings. He didn't get a big score, but I would stick with the same 7 batsmen that let England down so badly in this series.
Yeah, he's the guy under the microscope. He's the most vulnerable. He's come into the side in that position. 3, 4, 5 are all established, as the openers are.